Hi, everybody. I'm Desiree Dunbar, your host. It's a great privilege and pleasure to be here today with a very special guest. I know you're going to love all the nuggets of wisdom that she has here in our Modern Day Priestess Masterclass series. We have Dr. Nikki Starr, who's a medical doctor and a transformational coach, shamanic priestess, and power and purpose activator. Welcome.
Thank you for having me, Desiree. It's so nice to be here.
Such a pleasure. And I love in your bio, and I just love this. I want to hear about your story, because going from the science, the medical doctor practitioner to a shamanic priestess, can you just start right in on that journey? It's so fascinating.
Well, the truth is I was born into a lineage of Colombian healers and shamans. So working with energy is in my bloodline. So all the women in my family have different gifts. Like one of my aunts is like a prophecy through dreams. My aunt has more empathic gifts through my grandmother through her heart. Her mother was like a midwife and a healer, and she used all kinds of different things like aloe vera with ribbons wrapped around for protection. And so there's a lot of that like ancient jungle magic. I can even tell you other funny stories. I don't want to infiltrate people's minds with like what they even think is like white magic and black magic too. So it's like I've been born into it, but I grew up in New York City, and a lot of those stories weren't told. And as an empathic child and stuff, I just thought everyone was like me, and everyone could see and feel other people's energy fields and feel what's going on, and would get those hits. And I just thought that's how humans were. Like, I didn't know that I was different until I was actually in the hospital working with patients. So it wasn't even in the beginning of med school. It was more like when I was doing our rotations and all the different specialties. And then in my residency, my first year of residency, and I was like, this is not going to fix this. Like, this is connected to like their relationship or their emotional issues or their mindset, or, and just seeing how I felt like a glorified prescription writer. I was like, this isn't how it's supposed to be. Like, in my awareness of what I believed my work would be, is that people would leave me feeling happy and uplifted and transformed at the end of an appointment. So I was like, it's like I wasn't being brainwashed by the system. I was still like, no, because I guess an intuitive, things. So I was like, this is not it. So how did it start? It started because while I was in medical school, I also was traveling a lot. For some reason, I had this like insane hobby of traveling the world. So by the age of 25, I touched every continent except Antarctica. And it was on these travels that I started having some spiritual experiences, like oneness experiences. And so it turned into like vacation holidays to see different cities, then turned into like going to spiritual sites and meeting like healers all around the world. And it was such a blast. And I also went, like, I was always curious about the different modalities. So I would try them too. And every single person would tell me the same thing. You have gifts and you're a healer and you can work with energy. I mean, I had one person be like, you can move the elements, like you can change the weather, and I'm just like, what, like, so it was like a really fun journey, because I was like, oh, I wonder what they're going to say. So it started just to organically happen. Like, I had like this moment of having this deep meditation download where I was shown how to use my energy healing gifts. I started spontaneously channeling light language. I started doing more rituality work, and like even to be able to create rituals in my mind. And then later in other years, I had like a mentor being like, like you can prescribe rituals to people for like them to get better. And I always knew I could, and I would make them up for myself and other people that I work with when it was like so strong with. And I was like, oh, wait. And then I ended up creating like a whole program for women around that, like, because my coaching work is very practical and mystical, where it's the combination of both. Like, yes, we create goals and their strategy and all that, but there's also like the mindset and the energy work, because everything is energy. So it's been a beautiful roller coaster. And at the same time, like very necessary, because like, as an MD, when I speak of spirituality and mindset of and like thoughts creating and belief systems having to do with the physical manifestation of disease, people aren't like, oh, who's this woman just talking? It's like, I have the science background. So it almost like gives credit to the spirituality and the new age that we're in right now.
I love that. So it's, yeah, people will maybe accept you. It makes it more accessible maybe to people because it's less in the woo-woo realm and a little more balanced into what I feel is kind of like this masculine oriented world that we live in, which loves to focus in, hone in on the intellect, right? But we can have both. And I think what you're doing is such a gorgeous marriage of the two. And love that you have like the secret knowledge, your Colombian lineage, and all these initiations from healers all over the world. Plus you have, like you're saying, the cred and the science and that. So people that need to see that part will see that part. And people that need to see the other part will see that. So, and everything in between. It's beautiful. Love
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
What's the ritual thing that you're talking about? I want to hear more about that.
I figured there was like, oh, she must feel that I do rituals because even the title of this with the modern day priestess.
Yeah.
And so I am an initiated priestess in this life, but then also just so many past lives. And I'm sure as many of the women listening to this and so as we know, as with being a priestess, it's like you are in communication with the divine as just like a priest, like you are here to act on behalf of the divine. And one of my favorite ways to do that is through rituality. And I like to say that rituals are prayers in action. So it's one thing that we can verbalize our prayers or write them down as we journal. But so I always like to say it's like there's an hierarchy. It's like first there's the thought, then there's the written word, then there's the spoken word, and then is the ritual. And the ritual, I feel, really grounds whatever it is that we're wanting to do. So whether it's a release ritual or it's a manifestation ritual, there's a ritual for everything. And and then with that, because we can just do so many kinds of rituals, I, through the feminine archetypes, decided to create a women's program that incorporates both the masculine and the feminine of creating our lives, because that's what we're here to do. And especially when we are connected to the divine energies, we can use their help. We don't have to do it all by ourselves. And I feel like rituals are that call to action.
That's incredible. What is the masculine and feminine that you're speaking of here?
Yeah, so I like to work with archetypes because it's easier for people to understand. So within my women's program, The Ultimate Woman, I realized that women don't fully understand this, and most people don't understand the difference between masculine and feminine. So something like the warrior archetype is a very masculine archetype. It's disciplined, it takes action, it's making something happen, it's going to war. But then something like the oracle, where you're literally sitting and receiving wisdom, knowledge, information. There's nothing you need to do. It's actually the opposite of doing, it's receiving. So through, and then let's say we can take another one like the creator or the creatrix. I would say like the creatrix is like the feminine spin on the creator. That is definitely like strategy. Like, how are you going to create this reality? You're literally there in the strategy of it. Like what action steps to do, like what strategy to take, very masculine focused. But then something like the muse is like, that's what the feminine is known for, right? Like, so being inspirational to works of art, like just your beingness of beauty and embodiment is enough to move mountains or even have wars fought against you, right? Like we think of so many of the wars over time, like Helen of Troy and all these wars that were fought because of the power of the feminine.
Wow, so true. Oh my gosh. What would you say to women that are feeling the call, like they're hearing you speak about, being a priestess, considering yourself a priestess and feeling into that through past lives, and other women are kind of starting to get a sense of that, but they're wondering where to go with it or what to do. Maybe it's new to them as well. Do you have any advice on maybe first steps?
Yeah, like I'm someone like I love mentors and working with people. As you know, as I mentioned, I traveled the whole world and I met with all these healers. And so I always say, like, find someone you resonate with and apprenticeship, take a course, like go deeper. A lot of it will jog your past life memories. So if there is someone who works, like I know the same thing, like with my program, I guide women through meditations to past lives, to their priestess selves in past lives, so they can recall the information. And they have such fascinating, and it's funny, they all go through it at different times. We had some women that just went through the priestess module, and in that module, I talk about how in past lives, a lot of the priestess were persecuted because they were powerful, they were wisdom keepers. And so they were burnt at, even like priestess is similar to a witch, right? So, you were burnt at the stake. You were told to be quiet. You had to swear to secrecy over things, because if the administration, the system, the governments found out, you could die and your family could die and the people you're with could die. So the feminine wound is here at the throat center so much, because it's like, that's why so many women are like scared to shine. They stay in the closet, I kind of make a joke because a lot of women come to me and they're kind of like spiritual in the closet. And it's from this past life wound of having to be quiet. So I just feel that when we work with mentors, it's like the fast track, because we have that support. We're told we're not crazy. We're told like, yes, what you're feeling is valid. I feel like mentors help us see ourselves. And it's a way that whenever you've healed through something or have gone through something, you are an expert or an authority in helping someone else to go through that too. So that's always my recommendation, is find someone who you feel has some energy or frequency that resonates with you, whether you want to be like them, whether you're like, okay, what they're saying feels so true to me. And then from there, like ask questions, have sessions, like instead of living in like, I don't know what to do, like seek out the support.
What was your journey like of being visible? I can only imagine from, maybe you're already feeling okay with it because of your Colombian lineage and the medicine women in your family, but was there any fear of going from being a medical doctor to saying, I'm a priestess, I'm an energy healer, I'm a holistic transformational coach? Was there any barricades you came across there?
Yeah, so many. Oh man. So my Instagram account used to be private. And then at some point I changed it, obviously, because I was like, okay, I want to reach more people. So let's not make that private anymore. Because I just thought, oh, people are going to feel my energy and they're going to like request to be my friend. But because it felt like this layer of protection, that it was really hiding. So then I like opened up my Instagram account. And then I remember when I used to write blogs, I used to send them to friends and ask people to read them and almost like get the validation from outside before I used to post them. And then over time, I was just like, screw it. And now I just like write them in 2 seconds. Like I hear them in the shower and I'm like, okay. And I write them and I write posts like it's air, but it was a process. And same thing, like I used to not sing my light language or even do it in my sessions with people. But then it just started like coming out practically, especially because I was told I didn't sing well when I was little. Like, my mom and my sister would be in the car and they were like, you're not a good singer. And I like took that in so seriously. So when the light language wanted to channel, like sometimes literally like opera, I was like, oh my gosh, how am I going to like sing this for people? It felt like, but sometimes when I come out, I'm like, wow, that's my voice. Cause it's like, I'm tapping into other energies. So it's like, it's such a beautiful gift. It's like a healing for me too. So many ways. What else? How else did it happen? Oh yeah. And calling myself a priestess, that was even just like, it's funny. It's like when I actually owned the title was when my business made a jump, because I finally was like honoring who I am. And the funny thing is I still sometimes don't put it everywhere. Like I'm actually going to be in a Yahoo Finance article, and I decided I'm going to go probably with medical doctor turned transformational life coach, because I also don't want to be turning off the masses. So I am strategic about like when I use it.
Yeah.
And definitely like when women come in to consult for my Ultimate Woman program, I absolutely share that title. It's like on the PDF. Yeah. But, there is something to being strategic I do believe that. And I don't want to alienate people. And I feel like, you know, it's like giving some crumbs, and even when you're on any kind of initiatic path, you can't reveal certain information until a person is ready, or you burn the bridge. They're like, oh no, it's too much, too soon.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not coming from like a fear place anymore, but there was a time where I was like, how can I call myself into that? It's like, you know what, too, because there's like this bad rep right now where people go to like Peru and then they're like, they come back and they're like, I'm a shaman. So I think that there's a little bit of this tainting, like, how could I call myself that? Even though I'm actually initiated as a priestess in this life, whereas a lot of people are calling themselves a priestess and they're not even initiated, but it still doesn't mean that they're not. They are, of course. But I just felt like, oh my gosh, how do I call myself this? And then when I finally owned it, because a mentor told me, she's like, you are this. I was like, yeah, I am, you know? And so she saw it without me saying anything.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's what allowed me to finally own it. And then, like I said, my business boomed and I attracted and I created this program. So I was like the owning of my priestessship, my priestesshood, whatever we want to call it, and like being verbal about it in the world. I then created a whole program that's like literally the embodiment of it. And that was the archetype that called me to create the program. And then from there, I'm like comfortable in it. And I'm like, yep, my work is practical and mystical. Like, yep, I'm mainly working with divine forces and with energy. Like, you know, and I just owned it. It's almost like I was kind of thrown into it. And so I was like, okay.
I love that. I love that you have that awareness and open mind and acceptance and like such a big open heart to receive the messages and then to give in such servitude too. I just feel how expansive you are in your heart, and it's just so beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you.
What's the difference between priestess in the olden days, we could say, and a priestess now in these extraordinary times we're living in? We could even say, what would you say the difference is?
The first thing that comes to mind, like even from my memories of past lives as a priestess, is we were really like bound to our temples. And we really like live simple lives, kind of like monks. You would think of monks or priests would. It's kind of similar. Like we were very devoted to our lives at the temple, and we did rituality for the community and for the spaces. And priestess very much had their role within the community. Whereas a modern day priestess is like, she needs to work too, and she needs to make money too, and she's out in the world doing her thing, and she has a family. And I mean, it didn't mean that you didn't have a family when you were a priestess, but your role was basically what you did as a priestess. Whereas we wake up and we're like, let's get in our 20-minute practice before we need to just go and be humans in the world. So I find that it's weaving it into our everyday lives is what we're doing as modern day priestess.
That's so beautiful. That's interesting to think about. Yeah, so it's like the modern day priestess, the temple almost is her, and all the, you know, the workings and the sacredness is within her. And then she's walking in the grocery store and she's, you know, maybe inspiring someone to have a healing or to change their lives in some way. So
yeah. And also even our homes become our temples. So I know that I even share with women, like, make your home like your temple, where I have like multiple altars throughout my house, because like every single thing has its place that it goes. So without even realizing it, I was like creating all these altars because like it's just like my beingness, you know? And so we're really having, and home is, I didn't even realize it until this year when I started doing some other like business coaching stuff where they ask you to put what your values are. I realized how home was such a strong value for me. And even as we're having this conversation, I'm like, yeah, because it's like my temple, just like my body's my temple, but like, so is my home, you know? So
it's a really good point. And for women who are wanting just, you know, maybe they're not thinking, oh, I'm a priestess or a healer even, but they want to feel more the sovereign of their life. They want to be, just feel like they have, you know, more flow in their life, more presence in their life. And what do you think are some of the first steps that a woman would take if she's feeling maybe depleted or tired or just sort of fed up, stuck? Like, where can she get started?
yeah, so a few things. The first thing that came to mind was just stop, 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 and like lay down and do nothing.
Mm.
And from that place, really like grounding into the earth. So whether you want to go outside in nature and do it and like lay on the grass or lay on a tree. But a lot of where the stress comes from is like overstimulation on the phone, so much to-do list, and it's like running this high adrenaline, like fight or flight, but we're not even like with a tiger. We're like with our phone, like fight or flight, you know? So I put the phone away, like lay down and like literally soften, release like all the tension in the body. Allow yourself to just be like, if thoughts come, it's fine, just let them go. But it's almost like going into the body, like embodiment. Another great practice too, let's say if you're just so in your mind and like you really like laying there is making it worse because you're like thinking about everything you need to do, then it's like shake. Like put on music and just like shake. I mean, it's like you can't really think when you're like wobbling your head around. It's like it's not impossible actually. So if you just like go and you like shake it out and put on music that just like allows you to unleash, then you just like unleash the stress, unleash it all, like scream if you need to. And that practice then really allows you to come to stillness, that you can just like lay on the earth and just have like a beautiful moment to just listen and receive yourself. And even just like putting your hands on your body and just taking that moment of like, because even like when you put your hands on your face, it's very calming. It like activates your parasympathetic. So you can really start to, yeah. It's so nourishing.
True. Never thought about that before.
Mm-hmm. So it really just starts to calm the system down, because that's essentially when that overwhelm comes in and that burnout, it's like the system is like overloaded with adrenaline.
Okay. That makes so much sense.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. Just these like really practical, that's where your practicality comes into. I can feel that. It's like just something so simple, so easy to do. Lay down, lay in your bed for a minute, bring in that energy from the earth. It's really beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that, women, we get ourselves into a frenzy sometimes because we're such good multitaskers. We can do a lot of things, but then sometimes we burn out a little bit around it too. And we put ourselves last on the list. And so I think it's important for women to not feel guilty about taking time out to do what they need for themselves, right?
Yeah, like I always like to say, at one point in my career, I was just going till I was on E.
Yeah.
And now after quarantine, I've decided to really like operate more from a feminine place in my business. And it's like ending on a high. Like when I know I still have energy and I might want to go and do the next thing, but I'm like, like that's it. Like it's enough. Like I definitely had enough screen time. Like I wrote a blog today and I was like talking with my assistant and that I'm like, no, I can do some video stuff. But then after that, like I'm done for the day. Like to just not push the envelope and ending on the high instead of the low.
End on the high. I love that, because then you still have some left for yourself or, or your family at the end of the day, right? You're not just giving it all away. I wonder why we do that. Why do you think we give and give and give until we get to the E as women?
Yeah, I think it's like what you said, that because we have this capacity and we're like, oh yeah, but I could just do this one more thing. I think it comes from like being an overachiever actually. And so like women who are more overachiever and perfectionists, I think suffer from it even more. And especially women who are very responsible and disciplined. And like, I am all of these things too. Like I actually make a joke, like I just need my bimbo to come online sometimes so I can just like relax and not be so responsible. And so I think it's because which they're great qualities to have, and we need to keep them in check because sometimes they work against our own best benefit. And so because we have high standards, we want to like get it done.
Yeah.
And because like we know that our to-do list can be forever. And that's actually the thing, because we know our to-do list can go on and on forever. It's like, I even like had in the session yesterday with the women, one woman did ask about, okay, my business is expanding. Like, what do I do to prevent like burnout? And I'm like, have your hours of operation, and no matter what, stop after the hour.
Wow.
And yeah, sometimes if like inspiration comes in and you're hearing this like post that wants to come through or whatever, sure, like jot it down. And like, if you feel that it's going to give you energy, totally take care of it. Like, because there's been times where it's my day off and I'm like, no, I'm so inspired. I wanted to take off. But that's the thing. It's like being able to then really say no, then when you don't feel like it, if you're going to operate from a place of inspiration. So there's multiple ways to go about it. But the truth is just being really honest with yourself of how you feel.
Yeah.
So if you are just like feeling like, oh, I'm actually tired, I don't really feel like doing it, don't go do nothing, go work out, go like whatever is going to fill you up. And then when you're full, that will be there.
I wonder why we put such pressure on ourselves. Like, you know, those of us that, like you're saying, are like the go-getters, the type A personality. If we could just maybe take the pressure off, maybe there's a trust element there I'm feeling that could be enhanced.
Yeah, definitely trust, and definitely knowing that we can do it in a feminine way, because we've been programmed in the masculine way, which is like do, do, do. I mean, I grew up in New York City and like went to med school in New York City too. And there it's like first in the office, last to leave. And it's like, woo, you celebrate that. And it's like eating dinner at like 10 o'clock at night. And I'm like, so I was a part of that culture, like even like almost like it's like it's like a good thing when you're like complaining about how busy you are.
Right.
Celebrated.
And
yeah, it's like, oh, I'm so important, I'm so busy. Well, it's like for me, the value is like, how can I do less and receive more? Because that's the yin way, that's the feminine way. So really it's about
one more time. I think I just got that. That was really good. What did you say?
I said, how can I do less and receive more? Because that's the yin way, that's the feminine way.
That's amazing. Any woman that's watching this right now and wants that, let's just really open up to that. Do less and receive more. And notice how you're feeling. Like, do you start to feel guilty? Do you think it's impossible? Do you feel like then you're not a good person? What happens? That's very interesting. That.
Yeah. And one of the ways you can do that is like hire out. Like in the beginning, you might have to like train your team. But I know at one point when I had like a team of 5 and I was like making the most money I've ever made, I was doing the least because I was like delegating everything to them. Like they would do everything. Like I wouldn't even make an email anymore. Like they just did it. So it was like I was receiving more and I was also paying out, but it was like fine. Like I never do that much. Like I was even amazed. I'm like, wow, like I'm in my dream Malibu beach home. Like this is what it's like to be rich. I'm rich. Like, you know, like I'm rich in my dream Malibu beach home. I have staff and I'm literally chilling, like watching the sunrise and sunset, walking on the beach. Like it was the best.
And it was satisfying, even though you weren't writing emails and like trying to control every little part.
Yeah, I did have to let go of the control and sometimes there would be mistakes, but for the most part, it was like, you know, even I have a marketing person that I'm going to be soon going to like start doing ads and funnels so that I can get more people into the vortexes, you know, because I know people are looking for what I have to share. And he also helped me realize and be a little more feminine because he's like, listen, we're about incremental progress. We're not going to be that team for you that's like going to get it done in like the next day, but you're definitely going to grow and you're going to have a strong foundation. So I'm like, okay. So I had to like be less stat about things. And then he was like, have the standard of 70% good. And you can always go back and polish. So I'm more of like 95% from since that talk, you know, but like I was able to be a little bit more relaxed.
A little more relaxed. Yeah. One of my teachers always says, done is better than perfect.
Exactly.
That's helped me a lot because otherwise I would spend so much time on one, you know, Instagram post, just wanting it perfect emoticons, everything. Now I'm just like, yeah, done is better than perfect. And so I think it's actually better because then it just sort of flows out more onto the page or where it's going. And it's actually more satisfying. And I am letting go of that block of perfectionism that was so trained into me as a professional dancer. And it just feels so freeing. I'm like, yeah, I'm not perfect. I'm just going to be the first to say that now. Just honor that, right?
Yeah, same. And it's beautiful too. Like our perfectionist is part of what like got us into sharing our gifts with the world. And
True.
and I do think it's important to have a high standard. Like I know a new assistant I was training this week, she like posted 2 stories and the quality of the images are not like HD. And I'm like, no. At first I was like, okay, I'm gonna leave them. And then after I'm like, what am I doing? I'm not gonna lower the standard of my brand. So it takes like 2 seconds to do a new one. So then I like redid it with like
Okay.
higher quality images. So, I think that there is a balance, it's a balance between the two and knowing like what are the things that are like uncompromising standards for your brand or whatever it is you're creating. And what is the thing like, let's say maybe if you're cooking dinner, it tastes delicious, but it might not look the best. It's like, whatever, like just serve it in like family style. It doesn't need to be like 5-star Michelin restaurant looking on the plate, but it tastes great, right? So those are those aspects of where you give a little.
Oh, I love that analogy. That really helps. Thank you. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Any final tips for us? You've given so much today for women who are healers or just want sovereignty or working on their own business. Any other tips around holistic health and healing and being a modern day priestess?
Yeah. So I definitely feel that invest in yourself always through self-care, through mentors, coaches, etc. Like you don't have to do it all on your own. You don't have to know all the answers. Like invest in help, hire someone to clean your house. Like your time is really important. So that's always the first thing that I share with any women on the rise who are like busy, and it's like really use your time wisely, and wisely also means rest,
Okay.
and especially means rest. So that for sure. And then of course I invite everyone to follow me on Instagram at Dr. Nikki Starr. You can also go to my website, drnikkistarr.com, and we have a free gift for you as well. The Ultimate Woman Uprising, which I know all the women who are listening to this are definitely ultimate women. And we're all on the rise because the future is going to be created by the feminine matriarchs and the feminine leaders. So it's like a fun 5-step guide to support you in identifying what needs to shift so you can rise to your next level. And it's like it's free, and it's like this whole journaling guidebook, and it has a 5-day video series that goes with it.
Ooh, that's amazing. I can't wait to do it myself. I'm going to dive
Yeah.
in there. That's so awesome. Yeah, we have a button right below so you can just click right in there, go in and follow Nikki on all her platforms because I've been following you for years and just receiving the transmission of your words, and you're kind of, you're on the badass realm of things, and just the way you speak, I think really is informative, but also fun and playful and highly, highly creative. So you just have this like beautiful blend of, I think, all the ways that women really want to be, and you're kind of showing us where we can get to. It is possible. It is possible to be the queen of your life and to be loving your life. And it's not like you had it all figured out from the beginning. You were on your journey and then you got yourself there. And it's inspiring for all the women here, myself included. So I just so appreciate everything you're doing, and that you came here to speak to all of us today.
Thank you so much for that reflection, Desiree. I really feel that. Thank you. Thank you. In some days when it's tough, like my Instagram got hacked the other day, and I'm sharing about it in a 3-part post. And, thank you for that reflection, because it was a moment of being like, oh, and just to have the reminder of like, yes, what I'm putting out is important, and people are like wanting it and look forward to it. And so
yeah, you're one person I've kept, how you sign up for these newsletters and then you're like, oh, I've got too many newsletters, and then you delete them. You're probably the one person that I've kept on for years and years and years, because it just has so much integrity and I feel the transmission from it right away.
thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for creating this for all the women too, and offering a space for us to share. And I'm sure so many women are learning and growing just from listening in on these conversations. So bravo for doing this great work. I know it's definitely a lot of work and time and energy to make it all happen behind the scenes. So your work is seen and appreciated as well. So thank you.
Thank Thank you. Yeah, I feel it's so important at this time for women to be able to come into their own as healers or just as women moving through the world. And as you're saying, return to the matriarchal way. Our planet needs it. There's no time like now to return to these more feminine ways. And you're showing us the way, lighting the way. And I know so many women here are going to appreciate all this wisdom today. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much. And I look forward to connecting again. Bye.